This essay example, as well as thousands of others, is available in text format on our website for free and without registration. Simply Google Ivy Panda Free Essays.
Transcendentalism is the movement in literature, philosophy, and religion that developed in the first part of the 19th century in the USA. This movement is associated with developing some of the significant American values, including individualism, creativity, and the focus on action. Ralph Waldo Emerson and Henry David Thoreau can be regarded as the two most remarkable figures among transcendentalists, as the former developed a sound theoretical basis for the movement while the latter followed the theoretical principles and applied them in his real life. These two thinkers contributed greatly to the development of the movement through the focus on certain basic values and principles, as well as the promotion of particular aspects of the overall paradigm. One of the most important principles of transcendentalism was the belief that old institutions were full of flaws. For instance, religion was among the primary targets of criticism, as the institution of religion was too rigid and far from nature and real life. Emerson claimed no institutions or people could exist between the individual and God. Interestingly, he could provide sound arguments to support his point, as he could have become a minister like his father, so he knew many facets of the religious life of American society. Thoreau followed Emerson's point and stressed that building boundaries between the self and the universe was unnatural. The thinkers stressed that people were created as a part of the natural world, which made any institutions unnecessary and even harmful. Importantly, thinkers also criticized other types of institutions. They were devout abolitionists and supporters of the movement for women's rights. Clearly, Emerson and Thoreau believed that all people were created equal, so there could be no difference when it came to their rights and opportunities. It is noteworthy that one of Emerson's primary postulates is the belief that the individual's potential is limitless, so it was unnatural and vicious to put any restrictions or limits. Thoreau went even further, as he emphasized the need to be fully integrated into the natural setting and live a simple life that meant no rules or regulations inconsistent with nature's laws. As for the terrain of literature, the two thinkers promoted the ideas of creativity and less focused on works of the past. Emerson claimed that the works of writers and philosophers could not be used as examples and frameworks, as this was a form of the development of limits. Another central point within the movement is associated with the attitude towards nature. The two thinkers believed that nature was the major, or rather the only, source of inspiration for people's understanding of themselves, as well as ways to live in society. At that, Emerson and Thoreau had quite different perspectives, as the former had a romantic view of nature, while the latter had a more practical approach. In simple terms, Emerson focused on the need to achieve spiritual liberation through close attention to the wonders of nature that were the manifestation of the divine. Thoreau was not as concerned with allegories and the search for the supreme force. The thinker promoted the simplicity of human life, or, instead, his ideal of living in the wild. His views on nature and his methods to support his claims made other people see him as radical and eccentric. Thoreau lived on his own, far from the advances of technology and comfort, for 2 years. The philosopher shared his experiences and argued that the period he lived outside of society was a time of complete harmony with nature and self. Importantly, this is one of the points where Emerson's ideas, follower Thoreau went further and developed his own paradigm. Emerson praised nature as an ideal and a model to look at, but he did not promote seclusion. The thinker rather stressed the need to destroy all the artificial limits created by human society. Emerson tried to bring more natural processes to society, while Thoreau tried to change how human society existed. Emerson concentrated on the inner world and people's beliefs and perspectives, whereas Thoreau saw other aspects as necessary. For him, understanding that all people were created equal and that humans could not be regarded as the master of natural resources was not enough. Thoreau dreamed of a society where people could be as close to nature as possible. It is necessary to consider the way the thinkers contributed to American individualism. As has been mentioned above, Emerson emphasized that the individual's potential was limitless, which also meant that people had to be self-reliant when it came to their opinions, beliefs, and actions. Thoreau was more radical, and he tried to prove that every individual could live a secluded life and achieve the greatest level of self-reliance and enlightenment. At that, the two thinkers encouraged and inspired people to explore themselves and their creativity. It is important to add that both thinkers stressed the need to act rather than merely contemplate. Emerson's point concerning the limitless potential of the individual is the basis for this focus on actions. Thoreau put it in simple terms and stated that people had to try hard to understand their ideal world. The next step had to be trying hard to merge the ideal world with the real one. The thinker's experiment can be regarded as one of the ways the philosopher used to promote his ideas. He developed a particular image of an ideal world for himself and made his ideal the reality he lived in. In conclusion, it is possible to note that Emerson and Thoreau were two significant figures in Transcendentalism who developed a specific framework for the movement. Emerson and Thoreau, who was one of Emerson's followers, had similar views on many issues, but they had pretty different perspectives on some aspects. It is noteworthy that Thoreau was more radical and practical, while Emerson paid more attention to the theoretical aspect. The two thinkers believed that the individual had limitless potential that could be realized if more natural processes replaced the ways that existed in the American society of that time. It is possible to state that Emerson and Thoreau contributed significantly to the development of American individualism and the need to act and create. In other words, the two thinkers managed to shape society and contribute to the development of a unique nation. Did you like this Transcendentalism, Ralph Emerson versus Henry Thoreau sample? To get more works like this one, make sure to check out the free database of academic paper examples at ivpanda.com. You will find thousands of samples for all your study needs, without even having to register.